YouTube, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the show. You better tighten your seatbelt. A supply shock, it's brewing. Nothing is going to stop what is coming. XRP is coiling like a compressed spring. In the charts, they are screaming. Epic bounce incoming. That's all you need to know. Because what you're about to see in this video, folks, it's not hopium. This is the kind of setup that only appears before life-changing moves. You're going to want to stick around because what I'm about to show you, it's going to blow your mind. A lot of people down in the dumps right now. No reason to be. We know the playbook. We know the script. We know what they are doing. We're going to start right here. We're going to start with the fireworks, with the meat and potatoes, as we say around here. Raoul Pal, you know, the same guy who's called multiple macro reversals before they've ever happened. Yeah, well, he just went public saying that Bitcoin is about to explode like a rocket ship. And he said it's all going to happen in the next 45 days. Yeah, you heard that. Who else told you Bitcoin was about to explode within the next 45 days? Was that Eric Trump? Look, between Eric Trump, between Raoul Pal, these aren't random influencers who just hype stuff up. This is one of the sharpest macro minds alive, outright telling the world that you better brace yourself because the ignition sequence, it has already started. Listen.
So it's been really a patience game of the sideways choppy market, but people forget also last year was the same. Last year peaked in somewhere early in the year and then did nothing all year. Everyone got so frustrated. Everyone was flinging poo at each other online and getting angry with each other. And then before you know it, took off like a rocket ship in November and December. And I think it's somewhat similar this time around. And the rocket ship this time around is based on the fact that...
Look, he's right. So why does this matter for XRP? We're talking about Bitcoin. I'll tell you why. When Bitcoin enters into its expansion, into liquidity flows outward, first, we know where it goes, right? It goes to Ethereum. What happens after ETH? It goes into majors. What happens after majors? The high liquidity alts. But last, but not least, XRP historically becomes one of the biggest beneficiaries of that spillover. So if Bitcoin generally goes parabolic in the next 45 days, XRP is not just going to follow everyone. It is going to absolutely just slingshot. I hope you're ready for it because you remember what we did last year in November, right? Where XRP started at 700% run, which took it only about 10 weeks. You know that, right? You understand that. That is what we are looking at. That is where we are going to go. And now we showed you the math on all these ETFs, folks. You got to start paying attention. By the way, look, if you want to stay ahead of these moves, instead of being left behind or reacting after the pump, make sure you jump into that free newsletter. Link is down below. And claim yourself a one-on-one call slot. The best investment, it's an investment in yourself. I can break down these macro triggers for you. We can talk about OTC. We can set up your business and structure it the way it needs to be structured for your tax advantage. We can do it all. The calls, they're not scripted. They're your call. You decide where we take it and what we're talking about. Now let's look at this. Let's look at XRP's strength because most people, they're just shocked about how resilient it has been lately. But you listening to these videos, you already knew, right? A week ago, I told you XRP Bitcoin was breaking its multi-month trend line. Go back, look at the video. And now it's happening exactly as expected. This is the moment every veteran trader, this is what they look for. The points where you have your altcoins and they stop bleeding against Bitcoin and they quietly start reversing, folks. But here's where it gets really wild. All XRP needs is for Bitcoin dominance to drop below about 59%. You know what happens then? The floodgates open. When dominance breaks down, capital rotates. Don't tell me it's different this time. I've been hearing that nothing is different. Look, 2013, the first bull run ever. Okay. 2017, it wasn't different. 2020, everyone said it was going to be different. It wasn't different. Now 2025, everyone's saying it's going to be different. It isn't different. We just have more money into the markets, but nothing is different here. Dominance breaks down, capital rotates, and then XRP is perfectly positioned technically and fundamentally for that rotation. So if you feel like XRP is refusing to die, it's because the chart is telling you something big. that the bottoming process is already underway, which brings us over to this article. This is coming over to you from XRPrightnow.com. You probably should go check out that website if you're looking for Ripple and XRP news. So it's titled XRP, Ripple's next move after its oversold plunge. Let's break it down and let's talk about what the smart money already sees, right? XRP is oversold on the stock's RSI. What does it mean? It means that is your textbook spring zone behavior. The same setup that historically precedes its sharp upward resets. Bullish divergence forming. You can follow along with the highlights because, hey, what's better than highlights? You don't have to read a whole news article. I got you covered. Your bullish divergence, that is forming on the daily. Now, this doesn't happen in downtrends that are accelerating. This happens when your momentum is easing and your price is preparing to pivot. And then we see this, large inflows to Binance. People look at this and they panic like, oh crap, here we go again, right? But pros know that this is usually, the capitulation of the bottom. When weak hands finally cough up their bags. Do you know, here's a fun fact, 42% of XRP holders, they're sitting at a loss. We'll get deeper into that, don't you worry. But fun fact, right? 42% of XRP holders are sitting at a loss. How crazy is that? But what's going on right now with the price? It's chilling. It looks good. It's healthy. It is exactly the type of consolidation that you want to see before a squeeze. Look, the technicals and the on-chain data for XRP, they all align. Something that really happens at the top, right? But happens almost every time we are near the bottom. Let's get over this. Crypto Insight put this out talking about liquidity zones on the hourly and daily. You can see we have a giant freaking vacuum sitting right above the current price. But you're probably like, Rip, I don't know what that means, man. I got you. It means once that the market makers out there push the price slightly higher, they don't have to fight through stacked sell walls. There's air, and price loves empty liquidity. It moves fast, it moves violently, and guess what? It moves unexpectedly. Both the hourly chart and the daily, and I can rotate through them so you can see the other one. Your hourly and your daily, this is your daily chart right here. They show the same thing. We have a clean runway. I want you to think about an airport runway, the lights at night on it, right? Everything on that runway is pointing in one direction, right? And that direction, it's up, everyone. It is up. And then we move over to this. This one's huge. No one's talking about it. Multi-coin capital. It's pretty interesting. I wish I had a picture of the guy. I don't know who was around back in the day, but there was this guy who wore this shirt that said like Ripple or XRP, and he hates them. He hates Ripple. He definitely hates XRP. But this is his company. And look what's going on. They're going to be launching an ETF. Yeah, this is a very serious. So Multi-Coin Capital is a pretty serious institutional player involved in the game here. They're preparing to launch an XRP ETF this November, which is the crazy part. So you do understand what that all means, right? That means that XRP is stepping into the arena of institutional legitimacy. Funds, retirement accounts, high net worth pipelines. Look, the more spot ETFs we get, the better. The more ETFs we get, like the baskets that have XRP in it, I don't care if it's 1% or 99%, the more, the better. Because this is all going to lead us to that supply crunch moment. Listen to this.
Just really quick, give us an overview of this generic listing standard for crypto ETFs. And when could we see a Solana ETF?
Generic listing standards, they are likely coming about a month away. The basic rule is if you want to launch a fund, the principal component of which is a digital asset or any type of commodity that has had a contract listed on a CFTC regulated designated contract market, you can launch now without the 19b4 rule proposal from the exchange. So it'll allow you just to take a registration statement and go live without this 240-day dance with the Division of Trading and Markets. I expect it to go live within the next 6 weeks, and that would open up the window, which starts on September 16th and ends on October 10th for a Solana ETF launch and likely an XRP launch a month or two after, just because they haven't been on a DCM for quite as long. So it's a really big moment for crypto.
So look, November, December, another company that we can add to the list that's going to have a spot ETF. Look, this is the same cycle where you watch the Bitcoin ETF go wild, right? I mean, it broke an all-time high before halving. But this is how adoption starts. And then it slowly, then boom, right? And then just explodes. And it takes patience. Everyone wants price action after the first day of an ETF being live and being launched. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. And then we get this. This is a pretty interesting article coming in over here. And so let's take the zoom out perspective on this, because this part's crucial. Since 2017, Bitcoin has gone through 10 plus drops of 25%, 6 drops of 50%, and 3 drops of 75%. And every single time, those drops preceded new all-time highs. Think about that. If you're feeling fear right now, well, congratulations. That means you're early to the reversal. That's awesome. The truth is simple though. This is a routine market shakeout. This is the kind that the pros wait for. We're closer to the end of this correction than the beginning. Remember, I did the video talking about how 2025, the entire year, has been a bear market. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it often rhymes. And right now, the rhythm, well, it sounds like accumulation if you ask me. Then we got Michael Saylor out here. He's telling you this dip is temporary and Bitcoin, it will hit all new all-time highs soon.
You know, Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. It's had 15 major drawdowns. It's always come back to a new all-time high. If you zoom out, this is just par for the course. This is normal in the life cycle of an emergent transformational asset class, and it's a healthy thing. It clears out the tourists, the leverage, and the weak holders, and sets the basis for the next rally upward.
I like what he said there. It clears out the tourist. I like that because people believe crypto is this get-rich-quick scheme. Well, those are your tourists, and they gots to go. So I like how he put that, and he's right. Look, Bitcoin's going to go higher. Whether it happens today, tomorrow, 3 months, maybe it happens in the middle of 2026 when Trump starts giving out those $2,000 checks. All I know is that prices are going to go up. We are going to see an alt season, which brings us over to this. This is what separates the amateur from the killers, right? 41.5% of the entire XRP supply is underwater. That's not bearish. That is textbook bottom structure, folks. This is the same type of reading we saw back in November 2024 when XRP was 53 cents. You know what happens when supply is distressed, right? When compression builds and when weak holders give up, explosion happens. Not small rallies, we're talking parabolic reversals. Pain today, profit tomorrow. It's that simple. And Chad dropped this. He did a little math for us on the ETFs. He's like, look, if one ETF fund just brings in $3.7 million per day, or excuse me, not dollars, 3.7 million XRP per day. He wants you to multiply that by 12 funds and you're getting over 44.7 million XRP daily. Remember, Monday through Friday. If you look at that number monthly, it's 894 million XRP monthly. Look at it by the year. That is 10.7 billion XRP every single year through these ETFs. That's not hopium. That's math. That's supply. That is demand. And right now, XRP supply, it's locked. It's compressed and it is trading near its emotional breaking point. Exactly when institutional interests begin loading quietly. Now, folks, you can connect the dots. You don't need me to connect them all for you. I lay out all the news, right? It's like I'm giving you an alley-oop over there. All you gotta do is finish it. Here's what we covered in this episode. Bitcoin's gearing up for a macro explosion. XRP's breaking its downtrend versus Bitcoin. Oversold signals are lining up and flashing everywhere. Liquidity screaming upward movement. ETF pipelines, they're forming. Historically, volatility, it is pointing to new all-time highs. And supply, it's sitting deeper in red than any point since XRP was 53 cents. When you zoom out, this picture, it's crystal clear. This isn't the end. This is the setup. This is where legends are made and fortunes are accumulated. I hope you stay locked in. Stay educated. Stay ahead of the herd.